Alrighty, welcome back to Minecraft 1.21. Since they didn't add any new features in this week's snapshot, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about something that was added last week that I kind of overlooked talking about. So here we have a redstone lamp, and if I want to turn it on, I could click the button. It's going to stay on for a moment, and then it's going to turn back off. This isn't great, right? We want this to light something up. And yeah, I mean, I could use a lever if I just wanted to turn it on and off like that, but that's boring. I want this to turn on and stay on with the press of a button. So we need to make some sort of toggle switch, right? So this is one. Admittedly, not smart enough to come up with this myself. I copied this off of a Reddit post. But if I click the button here, then that redstone lamp will stay on. If I click it again, it will turn off. Now, there's probably some computer engineering principles wired into this design here that, again, I wouldn't have been smart enough to come up with myself. But as you can see, it's a little bit complicated, and it might take you a while to arrive at this if you were starting with no background in computer engineering. Still, it's cool. Takes a button and turns it into something that lasts until you turn it off again, a T flip-flop, a toggle. And it's great and all, but it's like a lot of stuff to put down and kind of complicated to put this into whatever situation you're trying to use it in. So there is a way to compact this. This is if you just kind of want to use redstone things only. But if we move over here, this is a way that you can make it a little bit smaller and a little bit easier to understand, right? So I have an item. Any item will work. Redstone dust inside of the dropper here, right? If I click on this button, it's going to fire off this dropper, put the redstone into the top dropper. The comparator is going to read, oh, there's an item in the dropper now, and it's going to light up the lamp. If I hit the button again, it's then, this dropper is facing into the hopper here, and it's going to feed into this hopper, down into this, and cycle it back into the first dropper, resetting it to the first state, and I can just keep looping it over and over. Now this works. It's a lot more compact. It may be a bit more difficult to apply it exactly to whatever use case you're trying to do because of like how you're going to input the signal, make sure it's not affecting other blocks, make sure it's affecting the proper blocks at any given time. But, you know, it's nice, it's compact, it does the trick. However, we don't need to do any of this anymore if we want to make a toggle switch. And that's because the copper bulbs have essentially integrated this entire feature. I mean, you saw the way they worked, right? Like I input a redstone signal and it turns on and it stays on, which is great. And I showed that in the video last week. If I click it again, it turns off. That said, you can use this as a toggle mechanism itself. Like you don't actually have to use the copper block as the light source or the thing that is on display, right? You can actually use it as a tool. So if you put a comparator up against the copper block, the comparator will read this just like it reads the dispenser or anything else over there, and it'll show, okay, well, the copper bulb is on, and therefore, let's output a redstone signal. And so now the redstone lamp is turned on. If I turn it off, the same thing. So we've now just taken these two very complicated and not too complicated, but, you know, a few more blocks, and we've boiled it down into 2 blocks, essentially. Click the button, and then it just turns the redstone lamp into whatever state, on or off, or you could obviously invert it if you wanted to, but it simplifies everything dramatically here. And so then, if we come over to our little room over here, I can click the button, and our lights turn on. How convenient. Yeah, sure, you have light switches on the walls that probably are on off like a lever, but whatever, we want it to be a button, okay? We want it to be more technical and prettier. And sure, in the past you could do this, but you'd have to have one of the more complicated solutions. Whereas now, it's as simple as I have the copper bulb that the button is inputting power into, and then it just shoots up a signal to the top. So let's go back over to the other side, and then we can just see, okay, that's on, feeds it to the comparator, and lights up the lamps. Turns it off, turns the lamps back off. So it's very nice. And there are a lot of applications for this, even for things where, you know, it's a little more complicated than just turning the lights on and off. There are applications for this sort of toggle switch. So it's a pretty cool little feature that they've added and consolidated into a single block, basically, with a comparator reading it out. Anyway, I thought I'd do a little bit more of a deep dive. Hope you found it helpful if you hadn't seen it already, and like the vid and subscribe for more stuff, maybe new snapshots next week with more features, and I'll see you then.